I understand the technical gremlins have been dealt with, so we're going to get back to it. All right, for those who are following along, we are at item 12.1.2, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Public Notification and Evacuation Route Planning. We do have a staff recommendation.
So moved.
Whoa. All right, Director Stamer, seconded by Director Sarai. Any discussion on this? No discussion? On the recommendation, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Director Rain. Opposed, if any? That is carried. Item 12.1.3, Birch Island Fire Protection Service Establishment. We do have 3 separate recommendations. Director Sao, thank you. Director Ranta seconds. Discussion on recommendation 1. Any discussion, questions, or comments on this? All right, on the recommendation, all those in favor? Thank you.
Move to.
Anyone opposed? Carried. All right, recommendation 2 moved by Director Stamer, seconded by Director Ranta. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And recommendation 3. Director Newstater, seconded by Director Ranta. Discussion. Director Sao.
Thank you, Chair. Just making a comment that, our staff has done their research, and I've done our research to address some of the issues or concerns with the existing service area residents in Wavenby. That, there were sentiments within the community that perhaps the new joiners should pay something, to contribute to the historical investment in the original service area. But we found that there was no legislative process to calculate what that is, and it hasn't been done before. So I believe, and staff believe as well, that an additional service area joiner can only benefit everybody as a whole, because there is a larger volunteer pool, there is a larger tax base. In down the road, it eventually will have a net benefit in terms of taxes for everybody, the cost of the service anyway. So that's just a comment I wanted to make to address some of the concerns of the original service area residents. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Director Sao. Anyone else have any comments or questions? All those in favor? All those opposed, if any? That is carried. Item 12.1.4, solid waste B train trailers. I must say I share Corporate Officer Lois's disappointment that this does not involve actual trains.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Stamer, seconded by Director Laird. Nope, that was 3 that we just, nope, that was 3. No, that's okay. Nope. So we have 12.1.4 duly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? No. On the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. 12.1.5 UBCM Community Excellence Award Application.
Second.
Director Bass, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Discussion on this. Great to see this being submitted for UBCM Community Excellence Award, and congratulations to staff for producing such very clear and helpful materials for all our residents and for the directors as well. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then on a similar note, 12.1.6 UBCM Community Excellence Award for Tiny Library. Director Blackwell, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Any discussion on this? Again, awesome that we just keep being able to submit the TNRL for award after award after award. I don't think they're going to be inviting all of the TNRD directors up if we get a picture. If any are,
Don't do that.
they won't do that one again. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. 12.1.7, Enterprise Resource Planning System Procurement. Moved by Director Bass, seconded by Director Laird. All right, we do have various staff members here available to answer questions or address concerns. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, Director Laird.
I was just wondering if we couldn't get a staff report on exactly what this new system is going to be able to do for the TNRD. I had a discussion in our break. It was quite interesting to find out the ability of this new system.
Ms. Ellison, would you like to address that?
Absolutely. Through the chair, we have a brief presentation, if it might be helpful. It's about 5 slides just to kind of summarize the report, but maybe what we'll do is skip forward to the benefits of an ERP system for the TNRD if folks are okay with that. We're going to go quickly. So an enterprise resource planning system, it's a mouthful, but we call it ERP system, is a comprehensive management solution that brings together many different business components. So common modules of these systems are finance-based, which involve budgeting, invoice management, cash management, procurement, inventory management, human resources-based modules such as payroll, scheduling, and applicant tracking. What really sets a ERP system apart is that everything is integrated. Okay, so right now we have different systems. We have a payroll system. We have an applicant tracking system. We have an HRIS system. We have a finance system. None of those systems speak to each other, which leads to a lot of duplicate data and a lot of manual data entry. So example, payroll. Payroll system is separate than finance data. So every time we pay staff, then our payroll staff upload those amounts into our finance system so that the finance system is reflected of our payroll data. An ERP system would integrate both of those together, saving us the steps of downloading and integrating them. I'll pass it off to Austin, who's a bit more of the software expert, to lead you through a couple things.
So when we're talking about our existing ERP solution or our multiple systems that are kind of hacked together, we have very limited reporting capability. Right now, what we're doing for a lot of our reporting is exporting raw data, and myself or someone else takes that data and turns it into a report. With an ERP system, that would be a very self-serve option. Someone could go in and have no knowledge of reporting and easily throw together a report that would give them the information they need. Another really cool thing about an ERP system is its self-serve functionality. Our existing system has the opposite. It has negative self-serve functionality. A great example would be expense reporting. Everybody in this room has done expense reporting. It kind of sucks. A new ERP system would make that a lot easier. The system integration, which Amanda kind of spoke to, but the system integration is a really big problem when you're talking about data sets of this size, because we're very frequently exporting huge data sets, double checking them to make sure that they're formatted correctly, that the data is friendly with the system that we're bringing it into, and then manually uploading it or bringing it into our system. Another thing is the database level access, which we do not currently have with our ERP system or solution. The reason that that's a critical thing to have is when we're looking at updating very large data sets. Like, for example, we have 1,100 utility customers. If I wanted to amend all of those customers for whatever reason, I have to do that line by line in our current solution. It sucks. It takes a very long time. There's a lot of manual entry. And when you have someone manually going in and changing 1,100 things, you have a big potential for keying errors, or for one account to get missed, or for an account to get updated twice. Having it all be integrated and have database level access removes that. And then the functionality. It's such an old system that functionality that seems obvious for a current system just doesn't exist. Our general ledger doesn't have dates. I I have not seen a general ledger without dates for a very, very long time. It's just not even something that you would think. There's a picture of me. Another problem that we have with our existing solutions is the customer support is really bad. If we have an issue, it can take weeks or months to resolve. We're having a problem right now where setting up a new account has one roadblock right at the very end where you can't get into your new account. We've had a person who hasn't been able to get into our system for 2 months. It's a really long time for someone to not be able to get into a system. We're also noticing with the lifetime of the system as it goes on that it's not getting updates anymore. And those updates are pretty critical to stay with the times and to have that new functionality that you expect to see. The customizability is not there. We went to our solution and asked them, hey, we want to change something with our calendar view. They quoted us $10,000 to fix it because they would have had to hire a programmer and customize it for us. Whereas with a newer solution where they have modules and programmers on staff to do it, it's very cheap or included a lot of times. And their security practices are not modern. When we're looking at cybersecurity insurance, one of the requirements of cybersecurity insurance is that we have multi-factor authentication. Our current solution does not have multi-factor authentication. So we can't get cybersecurity insurance to the degree that we want. This is Amanda. There's significant functional business gaps in our current solution just because of the way that they communicate with each other and the gaps in the ability for our program to do what we need it to do. The integration, again, is really big. When you're looking at a piece of software that does your ERP, you want to be able to set up a new employee and pay them and have it go into your general ledger, have it reflect in your payroll expense line, and not have to do a bunch of manual entry. The customer support, it just doesn't exist. It's not just when we have an issue, but if we don't know how to do something with the system or we're wondering if it has the capability to do something, there's nobody that knows because it's such an old system. The system was written about 50 years ago, and we've been using it for 30. Documentation's not around anymore. It doesn't exist. So our first option would be to continue using the existing system, which, as we know, it's a very, very limited in its capabilities. When there's downtime of a month for our system can result in costs of $100,000 or more. And that's just upfront costs. That's not trying to extrapolate out how much this is going to cost over a period of time as we're fixing errors that we've had to work around during that downtime. We would have to purchase additional software as well to fill in some of the gaps that an ERP system could do for us. Really good example of this is budget management. For such a large district that has 125 services, doing the budget for all those services is a really big task that takes weeks and months. A new ERP system would be able to do all the budgeting built in, create reporting, have extrapolation, and that would really be a great thing for us. Another thing that we're looking into is asset management. We are currently working on a strategy for that, but it's something that's been on the radar for a while. And an ERP system helps with asset management in that it has modules built into it that makes asset management easier. Trying to go a little bit quick. I know I was not being very fast there. This is a lot of stuff I've kind of already talked about. There's multiple different database tables that give us essentially the same information, which just introduces more opportunity for error. And again, that security risk, the fact that the security of these solutions that we're working with right now are not keeping with the times. As we continue to use this software, that risk grows. So then that brings us to option 2, which would be our new ERP system. So a new ERP system has a predictable cost. We know how much it's going to cost us each year. When there's downtime, there's staff on hand to fix it. They have the knowledge and the solutions to be able to not have that downtime. It gives us this increased level of efficiency where we can start to look at bringing the TNRD into the 21st century with respect to our technologies that we're using and the services that we can offer. Right now, staff are spending so much time trying to work around this system that doesn't work the way modern systems do, that value, that extra level of human touch isn't there. And with a new system, that's something that we could start to provide. Helps us with streamlining our processes, with combining all of our databases into one spot to reduce errors. It is future sustainable. It's a software that's a modern solution to these problems. 30 years ago, the system that we were using might have been a modern solution, but it's been so long since we've updated that we're way behind the times now. And then obviously we have that increased level of security that a new system can offer. The implementation for this would be roughly 2.5 to 3 million. Again, that's going to cut out a lot of existing systems that we are currently using. And so as a result, an annual maintenance fee for this system is about $250,000 to $450,000 compared to our existing systems, which are costing about $125,000. That does not take into consideration what the cost would be of additional systems that needed to be purchased in the future if we didn't go with an ERP system. So then I'll pass it back to Amanda.
So quick, so I think I'll touch on this ever so quickly to say, if the board approves staff to move forward per the recommendation we've made today, our next steps would really be working with our business support team to prepare the organization to move forward. We've done a lot of work here, but continuing to do that in terms of doing a gap analysis, really figuring out what our business needs are. We would then work forward to do an RFP. And then evaluate responses on that RFP and then come back to the board to seek your approval in terms of a contract award. And then we would dive into our plan, schedule, implement routine, and implementation of an ERP system. We're anticipating around 18 months. So we're realizing this is not a quick fix. This is potentially a good fix, a long-term solution, but it's going to take us some time. So I'll leave it there and you can ask Austin and I any questions that you might have.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Mr. Potts, Ms. Ellison, Ms. Toe for working so hard on this, and I suspect working even harder on this in the weeks and months to come. I saw Director Sao with his hand up, so if you, and then Director Grenier and Director Getz. Director Sao.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, my comment is, I would fully support this, related not just efficiency, but attracting talent in staff who wants to work with cutting edge technology. But just preempting some questions that taxpayers might have with such a large project. One, can we have more details on the 1.5 million, 1.5 million suggested to be taken from general reserve? And especially in light of, recently Director Grenier's motion to try to use that, have some sort of tax relief. And then second, will this require new subject matter experts to join the TNRD? Like, do we need a new department as well? And lastly, how many regional districts have the ERP? Are we leading or are we just following suit? Thank you.
I'll do my best. Yeah.
I can do the second.
Well, that's the ones I was gonna do. Funds from the reserve, $1.5 million. It's a huge ask, absolutely. We come in understanding that we did a request for expressions of interest in the fall of 2023. We did receive a variety of responses back. The range in quotes for an ERP system is huge. So it's really hard for us to come to you today with an exact number when we get quotes anywhere from 1 million to 4 million. So we're trying to give you the most ideal range that we have based on what other regional districts are seeing and other local governments are implementing as well. So I would say to answer your last question next, we are slightly ahead of the curve. There are other local governments, other regional districts that have implemented ERPs in recent years, some that are just in the process of implementing. But I think in terms of numbers, that probably fits on my hands, fingers, like there's 5 or 6 other groups that are quite deep into this and almost done implementing ERPs. There is a large constituent of peers talking about it. So I think, in that we're probably slightly ahead of the curve. In terms of subject matter experts, I think we have that in-house. We do have quite a good team in terms of finance, HR, business support. Naoto and her team are fabulous. We would probably, that 1.5 to, or 2.5 to $3 million estimate includes 3 positions to back up. So if we look at, say, our finance team, it would take the work of Austin and potentially 1 other for a year to implement a system. So that 2.5 to $3 million includes the cost of a staff member to help back up to do the work that they would then step out to do the implementation of. So we wouldn't be looking to bring in external subject matter expertise. We would be looking to bring in additional help for regular workload if that so answers.
And to provide a little bit more context on that first question about pulling money from reserves, when we're looking at providing relief to taxpayers, it's also more of a longer term view. And this 3 million or 1.5 million pulling from reserves up front is obviously upfront, we're pulling that from reserves, and there is an upfront burden to taxpayers for that. But over time, when we're looking at the amount of money that we would spend to support our existing legacy system, it does provide longer term relief to taxpayers as we over time reduce the burden and stop needing to increase costs every single year as our system becomes more burdensome and we need to hire staff additionally to support that system. Think of it as more of an upfront cost now to relieve taxpayers in the future.
Thank you. Next, we have Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering, it wasn't clear to me when I read the report, whether you're looking for an ERP solution of systems and modules that are already written by some computer agency and we're buying the package, or are you proposing that we hire somebody to write a specific ERP program for us? Because I'm very mindful of the federal government advancing. It was in the news quite a bit a few years ago about their payroll system and how it ran amok and it cost a fortune and it never worked properly. So I'm kind of wondering in our RFP process, if we're making sure that we're canvassing the field for existing ERP packages that we might be able to buy and then buy the support as opposed to some custom package.
Through the chair, it's a very good question. So our operations, while we have a lot of services, is not complicated with respect to how our accounting systems need to be. So we're actually not looking for our system to be custom written. We are looking for an existing package that has modules that suit our needs. And if we did require customization from there, that would be another conversation. But right now, we're looking for something that already exists.
Director Getz.
Thank you. In my past life as a IBM technician, I wrote several of these kind of programs and also did licensing for them. It's going to sound odd, but $1.5 to $2.5 million is actually quite a bargain for this kind of situation. One of the things that that I did when I did this was we did a thing called seats for the licensing. Does this have unlimited seats, or is there a certain number of seats in licensing? And what is the time where we are allowed to upgrade? Is it 3 to 5 years or 2 to 5 years? And I know I might be asking something a little more than I should, but normally it's about a 2 to 3 to 5 year situation before there's a rewrite. Do we have that in the package as well? But I'm more concerned about the seats and the licensing and how all that works.
Yeah, the seats are, it is all seat based in terms of licensing, and it usually bases off employee headcount. Ours is quite variable given the amount of employees we have that are, I would say, casual or arm's length employees. So it's part of the negotiation process when we enter into those RFP discussions. And then I think term life, I'm not sure on that one. Do you have some information? We'd have to come back to you with an answer on that specific. Yep.
Director Hamer Jackson.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's been used for quite a bit, right? And I'm just wondering if we've had any chance to talk to any other districts or municipalities about the bugs, the goods, the bads, whatever, providers are good or bad. I'm sure we've done something like that.
Through the chair, that's a really good question as well. We actually have a board that we frequently go to with lots of other finance departments where if we're looking for specifics or if we have questions, we have other municipalities and regional districts that are actually using the exact same software that we are. And we've been in discussions with them about their thoughts on moving to an ERP and what next steps are and where they're having struggles. We recently moved to the cloud for our solution, and there was another district that reached out to me directly and said, hey, we're moving to the cloud. We heard that you just did. How'd it go? So yes, we've been in conversations with other groups to try and understand their pain points as well. And unanimously across the board, people are experiencing what we are.
That was great. Thanks.
Director Laird.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As far as the funding that's required, this will probably be over a 1 or 2 year period. It's not a lump sum upfront payment. You just sort of, just wondering how that worked.
Correct. Yeah, through the implementation phase, there would be different periods of payment. We're estimating the implementation between 12 to 18 months. So depending on the timeline of that, it may fall within 1 fiscal year or multiple fiscal years.
Thank you. And I just had a question. The annual maintenance fee estimated at 250 to 450,000. What does that comprise?
So an annual maintenance fee would comprise of the support that we would have through the company that we were working with. So that would be if we had issues, we have questions. It would also include any licensing or ongoing costs that were associated with that. So like, for example, if we were to buy licenses to 3 different modules, we would have an annual fee that would be associated with those modules to continue our access.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any further questions or comments? No? Well, we do have a motion on the floor. So on the motion then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much for the presentation. All right, parcel tax roll review panel. The long and the short of this is that we need 3 people to be on a parcel tax roll review panel, just as it says on the label. So don't everyone put your hands up at once, but do I have 3 people who would be willing to sit on this? Vice chairs. All right, all right, okay, well, we might have to winnow down then. So I have, hang on, let me see. I've got directors Bass, Thorpe,
I'd
Laird.
like to ask a question. How long was this committee going to be in place? Is it just a short term parcel tax
It's
review? or is it
it's a
ongoing?
1 day. 1 day?
Through chair, it's typically a single meeting. The only reason it would have to meet more than that would be if there were a significant number of people appealing against the imposition of the parcel tax.
I'll put my name on.
So right now, as volunteers, I have Vice Chair Smith, I have Director Bass, Director Thorpe, Director Laird. Anyone else whose hands went up? I saw someone over in that direction. Director Morris. Anyone else? All right, I can take Director Bass off. So we need 3, and right now I have Directors Thorpe, Laird, Morris, and Vice Chair Smith. Vice Chair Smith is willing to take a bullet for the team and have me remove her name. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Director Morris?
Sorry, just wanted to ask a question. Is there a conflict if in fact this parcel tax review includes a system that is within Area P? Perhaps I should not be actually sitting on that review.
Corporate Officer Lois?
Thanks. Through the chair, within the, if it's just within the electoral area, there's certainly no issue on that. So, for example, municipalities often include impose parcel taxes, and they're all councillors would say be subject to. So there's definitely no issue with that.
So right now we have Directors Thorpe, Laird, and Morris who have volunteered to sit on the panel. So could I have a recommendation to that effect, please? All right, Director Getz, seconded by Director Blackwell. Any comments or questions? Thank you very much for stepping forward. Everyone who either is still there or removed their name subsequently. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Director Rain?
In favor.
Thank you very much. That is carried. Next up, we have Director Hadwin with Annual Film Commission Summary. I was going to say the floor is yours, but perhaps center stage would be more appropriate.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here today to speak on our accomplishments over 2023. It's been a busy day and a lot of tough acts to follow, most notably Jeopardy, obviously. The reason why I'm here is to talk about accomplishments of 2023. I'm going to go over a few data points and also just to generally talk about what it is that the Film Commission does. I know that everybody here in the room is aware, but because we have a audience online, it's always nice to take advantage of that and share what it is that the Film Commission is up to and getting accomplished. Okay, thank you for getting that up. So the Thompson-Nicola Film Commission is one of 8 regional film commissions that are situated all throughout the province. And a big reason why the Film Commission exists is to bring in economic development. And if we're talking about bringing in large-scale productions into the area, they like to have the same knowledge and experience as somebody that is local would have. So we provide that knowledge and provide them with resources so that they know what we have here to offer. I'm in a way also somewhat of a salesperson. I pitch the locations to possible productions. So when they approach me with a script, I can say, yes, we can meet your mark X, Y, and Z, and you should be coming to the Thompson-Nicola to make your next movie production, and this is why. So that's a big part of what it is that we do. We're also here to facilitate and encourage growth of the film industry within. So this is the latest published economic impact that has been published by Sierra, which is hired through Creative BC to talk about statistics of what the film industry does for British Columbia. So this is 2022, so it's not reflective of our 2023 year, but it is the most recently published figure, so I'm sharing it with you here today. So in 2022, it was estimated that about $3.3 billion was brought into British Columbia through the motion picture industry. Our latest stats that we have is about 6.25 million direct output that was brought into our region and circulated. So it's down from 18 million from 2022, so a significant drop. And we definitely equate that to the 6 months of strikes that we had with the Writers Guild and with the SAG-AFTRA strikes that lasted for far too long. So we're glad that those are over and things are already picking up. In 2024, we have already made that within the first 3 months. So definitely a big turnaround. We're catching up. So here's some of our latest accomplishments that feathers in our cap that we love to brag about. Bones of Crows, it was released in 2022, but look at all of these awards that they've won in 2023. So 34 big awards that this phenomenal, very impactful film has won in 2023, plus 21 nominations. just a great, great film. And we can definitely say that that happened mostly in our region, that filming. And here's some fun ones that came out in 2023, Been There All Along, The Hammer, Infidelity Can Be Fatal, and The Movie Star and the Cowboy. Here's some documentaries or some short films that were either released in 2023 or were filmed in 2023. So See No Evil, Cloud Striker were both released last year, 2023, and Henderson was filmed 100% in Kamloops in 2023. Our biggest flagship of 2023 would be the release of Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. So that was an Apple TV series. Some big, iconic and exciting scenes were filmed in our region. Godzilla finally waking up and making a big appearance in the TV show. So that was probably our biggest revenue of 2022. And then it was released in late 2023. And here is an excellent film that we can't yet watch, but I did share the trailer for it just today. So it is at the very, very tippy top of our Facebook page. You don't have to go scrolling for it. So I highly recommend that you go and check out that trailer. It was dominantly filmed in Ashcroft. It was filmed in near the Wallachine area and as well as onto Kamloops lands. And so that that is released already in the US, but you cannot yet consume it here in Canada. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, check out that trailer because it is very exciting. And who doesn't love a good Western, especially with some rowdy cowgirl in it? So what is it that we do? Like I said, the majority of our position and what we do is to bring in that economic development and to support film productions so that, for one, they land here, so that they're aware that we are a place that they can be filming in. Two, so that they have a great experience when they're here, and three, so that the residents have a great experience while they're here, right? So we want to make sure that it's everybody's had a positive experience from film productions coming into our region, and that's the bulk of what it is that we do. We do that by taking many photos and presenting them as options for when people are looking for the right look. We tour them around, we show them what crew we have available for them so that they are hiring locals, so that they know where to rent their equipment. We're physically going to other places, so it's our hope to attend, it's almost like a travel trade show where I would meet with location managers, hoping to do that in Las Vegas this fall, so that we are top of mind when people are thinking, you know what, I'm gonna shoot my next post-apocalyptic show, or I'm going to show my next Western, or I'm going to show my next big thing. I want to make sure that I'm filming it in the Thompson-Nicola because it makes sense. I think another big thing of what it is that we do is we create a lot of local pride. So people are excited when they get to see these productions on their TV screen, or when they get to see it on the big movie screen. And I think that it's just something that people can, think, this is where I live. Something cool and exciting can happen right where I am. Mostly I'm a welcoming committee. Some of our big wins in 2023 and 2024, we were voted as one of the best places to live and work as a movie maker. So that was pretty fantastic and amazing to get that recognition. We hosted a Learn About Film seminar where we had a number of attendings come and listen to leaders in industry. We had a visual effects expert. We had people writing about, coming in talking about script writing, directing. We had amazing equipment brought in so that people could touch and feel and experience what it was like to work with these high-end pieces of equipment. We had film schools come in and talk about their experiences, safety groups, all kinds of people that these people, our residents, could learn from and hopefully gather some knowledge of maybe where they want to take their careers. So some of our goals for the year ahead. So right now we are currently working on our strategic plan. We have held a engagement session, actually two. We had 27 attendees come to our engagement session. And many people were interested, but maybe couldn't make it. So from that strategic plan, we hope to have some measurables so that we know that we're succeeding. Yes, it's great when we can say the economic value of what we're bringing in, but is that hitting the mark? Is that what our communities want to see? Is that what our residents want to see? Is that what our film producers want to see? So we were really wanting to engage with them, hear from them where we're meeting our mark and where we can improve and what measurables there are. So it's always great when you hear, I would like to see more of this. Okay, well, what is more? And do you even know what we're already doing? So that's always an important measurable, like what is a number for success? And so that at the end of the year, we can say, yes, we've achieved that, or it needs work. The next one that we're working on is the film location map, which is something that we had in the past, and we're bringing it back by popular demand. So this is a map that showcases the entire region and all of the various different types of productions that have been filmed in our area. People could click on a link and potentially even visit the spot where that filming has happened. So it'll have almost a tourism type of icon. So if people maybe want to visit the site where not Transformers, heaven forbid, Power Rangers was filmed in downtown Kamloops, they can say, you know what, here's a photo of me where this iconic scene happened. And so people can get excited and visit the spot where their favorite film or TV show was filmed. So that's a pretty cool thing that we're bringing back. Currently, we do have all of our films and movies and short docs and commercials and any type of film production that we've had in our region. It's all listed under the past productions of our website, but we would really love to have this map element so that people, especially people that are not from here, they might have some guidance of what is nearby that they can visit. Always top of mind is still that motion production film studio that we would love to see happen in our region. It would definitely spur a lot of economic growth. And so that is something that we're always kind of still always have on my desk, but it's challenging to bring it to the forefront when I've got 7 productions at any given time that are looking for my attention to try to bring them into the area. So still something that I think would be excellent for our region. And that little guy in the middle, that is a green generator that the TNRD has purchased with a grant. And we purchased a few of them. Basically, the idea is to try to make film as green as we can in our region. So these are generators that will be made available to film productions so that they can be a little bit greener, a little bit quieter when they're making their film projects happen. They are solar powered so that they can actually be gaining energy while they're outputting energy. They're just such cool little critters, and I'm really excited about having them. They haven't arrived yet, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to adopting them. So those are some exciting things that we have on the radar for 2024. And this is our current mission statement. And in the next little while, we will be putting forward some things that were flushed out in the strategic engagement session and how we maybe want to change it. Is it still current to what we stand for what we are working towards? And so there has been some suggested changes. So before we finalize it, we are going to be putting out a questionnaire to the public that they can participate in if they would wish to provide us with some feedback whether we're on the right track. That's it for 2023.
Thank you very much. I just want to let everyone know that on May 6th, which is a Monday at 10 a.m., the Ashcroft Museum is opening for the season, and we are opening with a new exhibit, which is movies filmed in Ashcroft and area. which will have displays including the full-scale model that was built for the Twilight Zone. It's going to have posters and memorabilia. So all are invited to come and check that out either on opening day on May 6th at 10 a.m. or anytime through the summer season. I have Directors Stamer, Bass, and Blackwell. Director Stamer.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair, and thanks very much for your presentation, Terry. A couple of questions. You talked a little bit about the soundstage, so I guess there isn't a studio beating down our door, but I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on some of the challenges going forward, looking at, some of the dynamics in our film industry. And the second part, has there ever been talk of a walk of fame or something like that? I realize, there's, as you mentioned on the strategic plan, there was different locations, and I think that's really keen where you can, actually be able to identify that, as Chair Roden mentioned about certain, filming in her community where you could actually go there and, oh yeah, there's the building and, get a picture and that kind of stuff. But is there any thought of possibly having a central location, whether it's Kamloops because we're the hub, and maybe having a walk of fame, whether it's for film or for actors or for both? What was your thought on that?
So it is already a conversation that Tourism Kamloops has approached us with, and this is kind of the stepping stone that kind of gets us the digital information, everything in one focal point, at least at the least expensive way that we could probably move it forward. And from there may be those elements that want to take it just one step further by having either a plaque or a QR code or something recognizable when you're going for a walk. And you're stopping in somewhere and you can see this recognizable signage that says, by the way, such and such was filmed here, and scan this code to find out more.
And what about like a walk of fame? Like, is there any thought of, possibly using that as a tie-in for a tourism as well? Whether you, as an example, maybe Victoria Street or something where you could, you end up having those people being able to, be in a central location and being able to recognize them in one spot. Has there been any thought on something like that?
It's never been brought up, but never say never. I'm open to ideas. I think a Hollywood Star Boulevard would be pretty fun. Yeah, especially if we could name it after me, that would be great. And as far as the film studio goes, I think that sometimes it's just always about ill timing. I mean, we put together all of this information and we presented it to the world months before these strikes happened. And so I think that that never really sits well, because it makes film maybe not seem as safe of a choice as it was. But honestly, the business case, there's proof in the pudding, right? I mean, the document clearly lays out that it is a worthwhile investment, and it probably won't turn your profit within the next couple of years, but within 3 or 4, you would be making that money back. And hearing from productions, they love our region. They'd stay in our region if they could, but they need that infrastructure in order to be able to stick around. And I think that if you look at where we're losing projects to, Westerns are a great example of them going to Alberta because of the infrastructure that they have there. And not every film studio is built in the major hub. Like, you can be built in Kamloops, you can be built in Merritt, Logan Lake, as long as you're within a short enough distance of an airport.
Director Blackwell?
Sorry, I thought somebody else before me. Yeah, a couple questions through the chair. What is the commission's role in working with and or supporting independent filmmakers and independent support services? I see we have the big people covered, but what do we do for the little people?
Well, a lot of the things that we do for the little people are what we do for the big people too, right? So, I mean, if they're looking for certain locations that they're wanting to film their projects in, we provide them with hands-on support with that. We let them know what crew there is that's available for them to hire. We point them in directions of where they can be making funding applications. The Film Commission itself doesn't typically fund productions. However, we do support like film societies. So for example, the Kamloops Film Society, they put on the festival every year, and we sponsor one of the prizes of requesting local film producers to submit videos to the KISS, the Kamloops International Short Shorts. So that's a few examples there. Sun Peaks, the Cam Afro Film Society has asked for support. So those are ways that we can support in those ways. When there's grant applications, we can provide letters of support if we feel that the letter is warranted, which 90.2% of the time I would say it is. So that is another way that we can support. But I think that a really great moment came out of the strategic engagement planning session where people said, we're not getting any provincial or federal funding, where we're seeing that happening in the Lower Mainland or throughout the country, and some of it's staying out in the East Coast or some of it's staying in the Lower Mainland. So a big part of what has come out of the strategic engagement session is the request that we advocate for more awareness of what it is that we have throughout the province and to try to distribute the funds equally. And if, for those that know me well, know that I am pretty ferocious when it comes to equitable support throughout our region. So yeah, that's one thing that we will be working on.
Okay, thank you. This is probably a simpler one for you. Does our film commission run on the same model as the other ones in BC? Specifically, is our film commission, are the other ones attached to government organizations or like the TNRD, or are they standalones like some of the destination marketing organizations?
It's a little bit of a combo of all. So there are some completely nonprofit associations that aren't associated with any of the destination marketing organizations. There's some that are operated through the film office, or pardon me, the tourism office. And the one that we're probably closest to would be the Shuswap Regional District, which is through the region, but also through their tourism.
Okay, thank you. And last question, this is more of an idea. Would it be useful for there to be some sort of a society or association for local independent filmmakers and suppliers of service that you could go to figure out a pool of what they have for equipment and the services and what people do? I've had this suggestion that maybe sort of a roundtable or a lunch meeting that we could host as a TNRD for these types of people, so that everybody could be in the room so they understand what they're all working on or what they all do or what they have to offer.
I mean, it's definitely successful in the Okanagan. For example, they have a film commissioner and they have the Okanagan Film Society. And to the best of my awareness, that it does encompass the entire region. However, most of those people do live in Kelowna, so it is somewhat Kelowna-centric. But when I think of, for example, the Kamloops Film Society, I don't think that there would be any reason why they wouldn't be open to supporting people throughout the entire region. They may be called the Kamloops Film Society, but I don't think that they are based on just Kamloops residents.
So just absolute last one, sorry. The Kamloops Film Society, that is for creators of films or enthusiasts of films? I'm not quite familiar with the inner workings of that.
So their mandate is to, just like us, to support as much local film productions as possible and to provide film that you wouldn't typically be exposed to. So that's why they have the Paramount, and they offer a lot of films that you wouldn't necessarily get to see at the Cineplex. They have always featured local productions that I have put forward as a request to them, like, hey, can we make this happen? Can we make an event out of whoever's made whatever in our region and make a big deal out of it. So I think that they do support all local productions, and they encourage anybody to participate in the KISS. You're welcome.
Well, I know that the world premiere of The Test by Vesta Giles about the Fire Smart in Logan Lake had its premiere at the Paramount, which is operated by the Kamloops Film Society 10 days ago. Finding Fred Lee, which was a documentary about Fred Lee, who has connections to Kamloops and Ashcroft, actually, was that premiered during the Kamloops Film Festival last year. They always do a very good job of promoting both big budget and small documentaries and feature films shot in and around Kamloops and the whole region. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Director Houghton?
Just a quick one, Terry. One of your slides, you had the feel-good things that made everyone feel good and on your accomplishments. And I just gotta say, as a longtime landowner and farmer in Knutsford, and I think I mentioned this one of the other meetings, is it's really nice to share your land and your homesteads, and we're able to use them for part of the filming of Bones and Crow. And on our bus trip to Merritt to our out-of-town meeting, I'll be outlining the two locations on our place and one on our neighbors. And just to outline where this stuff happens, I think it's very important, and congratulate you on it.
Thank you so much. And if anything else, we can always do a tour bus of all of the great films that we've had in our area and talk about those successes. I think that people are often surprised to hear all of the great projects that we've had in our region.
Any other questions or comments from Ms. Hadwin? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We even appeared on Jeopardy. I don't think that counts. Not for the Film Commission. All right, we have for information the building permit activity highlights for March of 2024. Talk about going back down to earth here. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this? Director Sal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just looking at that report, noticing like a downturn of like almost 90% year on year on the, perhaps to Mr. Kraus, is this like just simply because of just a macro trend everywhere is like this in BC, or because it seems a bit contradictory that all orders of government right now is trying to promote more housing building, but yet we have a 90% decrease in value in construction. That's one. Two, is there any truth to, I've heard recently in some other case that there are speculators sitting on industrial and residential land, potential sites, and just sitting on them without putting them to actual intended uses. Is there any truth to that in TNRD? And if so, is there anything we can do as a regional district? Thank you.
Through the chair, yes, I mean, you're noticing a downtrend on permit numbers. I can't explain exactly why, but certainly I think the high interest rates is what we're hearing from a lot of builders as well. There was speculation that it might come down, and it has not yet, and I think a lot of people are impacted by that. When we compare to March of 2023, it was really down because we had a very large building permit in March of last year, so some of the values are down on that. But in general, yes, it's on a downtrend. When I compare it, don't forget 2021, 22, 23 were record high years. So if we go back a little bit further, we're probably in line, don't have it in front of me, but it's like 15, 16, 2015, 2016, 2017. We're kind of in line with that. So things are down though, but I'd like to blame it, at least initially, on high interest rates. Second question was about speculators sitting on land. I've heard that a lot over the years. It could very well be. I don't have evidence of that. I don't even know if it's speculators. It's in many communities, it's certain large landholders that just hold that land and have done so historically. Why it's not being sold, why it's not being developed, I can't answer. In terms of what can we do? Not much, because it's still a free market, and I don't know that we can force people to build or force people to give up their land. But I think that's definitely a challenge that I'm hearing, yeah.
Director Middleton?
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. And I'm not sure if, how to approach this, but if we're seeing, I mean, we've just discussed earlier today, and we've been putting section 57s on titles generally because people haven't taken out permits, haven't sort of followed the rules. So we've lost the value or the cost of the permit that should have been taken out and wasn't. Saying we're spending staff time and whatnot so we're incurring additional cost on these unpermitted properties or buildings, whatever. going around. So is there a way for us to say somewhat recoup some of those costs either by penalty or additional taxation? And then part of the other equation is too, is when we're seeing these unpermitted properties going ahead, and it's until we either say somewhat catch up with them or whatever, but is that also a loss of actual value of the property that could have been taxed from what point in time till now? So if we got sort of like a double or triple whammy of losing funds, you know, to the TNRD because of the permitting and lack of it.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, several good points there. I mean, in some cases, we have people who take out permits, start the process and don't finish. They've paid the fees up front, just didn't complete. So not every notice on title is somebody who didn't have a permit at all. But yes, the ones that are building without permit at all, where we've received no fees, we've spent staff time and received no fees for that. We still notify BC Assessment, so BC Assessment will still value the illegal construction that's there, and so taxation on that illegal structure should still be at the going current rate. But yes, we would lose out on the fees on that, obviously. And is there a way to recoup? Not that I've seen. In fact, that's really the problem and why we keep going to this model of just putting a notice on title and leaving it at that. If we took legal action, which is our remedy, on each of these notices that I bring forward every month, we would quickly run out of taxpayer money. So this remedy's been put in by the province to say, local government, we know you can't enforce on everything. So put a notice on title, save yourself. But could the board do more? Could we take action on some properties? Potentially, maybe that sends a message that it's not as simple as getting a notice on your title. Things like that can certainly be explored, but there's no easy way to recoup the money, no.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on the building permit activity highlights? All right, we move right along to the electoral area directors meeting of March 7th. We have a number of recommendations that arose out of that meeting. Thank you, Director Laird. Second by Director Sarai. Any discussion on this regarding a letter to the Agricultural Land Commission? No. On the question then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. I'd like to propose number 2 because I'd like to provide a slight change of word, that the board direct staff to look into purchasing tents for electoral area directors and develop a policy to clarify appropriate use of public displays by directors. Second, Councillor Karai, thank you very much. Any discussion on that? On the Director Sal?
Sorry, just to refresh my memory, once or if this, excuse me, this policy is adopted, it's not standard. It's not like, okay, sorry, let me get on my thoughts. It's not going to be given to every electoral area director. We can say, I don't need it, then.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, to be requested by the electoral area director.
Thank you. Any other questions? On the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. We have a third recommendation. Director Smith, thank you. Second. Director Sao, any discussion on this point? Director Stamer?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification on the purpose or an explanation, I wasn't at the meeting.
Director Grenier?
There was a recent meeting with Skeetchus and Band, a preliminary meeting with the Skeetchus and Band, and Director Thorpe and myself and Scott and Corbin were there. And we didn't really have a heads up as to what we were going to be talking about, the two directors. And we were in the awkward position of the meeting. We didn't know if we were going to go into the meeting. We got there ahead of Scott and Corbin, and we weren't sure what the purpose of the meeting was, what it was all about. So I think that this was just a little bit of coordination before we have any more of these meetings. We don't want to fall on our face if we have another meeting with another band. Is that fair comment? Okay.
Thank you for that.
Just to clarify, this is not intended to be a slap on the wrist for staff. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that this is just to clarify, not to upgrade anyone. Okay, thank you. Director Lepso.
So is this something just for the rural directors, or is this all directors, or I just see provide debrief with directors? Just
Hildebrand?
Thank you, Chair Roden, to the board. This is a practice that we're going to do with all directors. So anytime we're working in municipal areas or electoral area directors, there'll be communication as we have been doing. There was just an issue with this particular one that we had a meeting with Skeetchison where we were invited to their meeting and didn't have an agenda, and there were some concerns that we needed to follow up on. So we are aligned and ready to go.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
Is it a briefing or a debriefing?
Sorry, Director Rain?
Is it debrief or briefing?
I think it's meant to be a briefing. A debrief takes place afterwards, which does not appear to be what you're looking for. So perhaps suggest an amendment that the motion be amended to read: direct staff provide a briefing with directors prior to meetings. Okay, everyone's good with that minor amendment? Awesome. All right, any further questions or comments? On the motion, all those in favor?
Right?
Opposed, if any? Carried, and we have a fourth recommendation. Director Sarai, thank you. Do we have a seconder? I saw Director Smith's hand. Okay, I have a question. Why do we need another strategic planning session when we just had one last year and we are now working on a strategic plan? Director Laird.
What I find with strategic planning is that you do put a plan in place each year. And if you have the opportunity to look at as a board, not just as EA directors or committee of the whole, you get to refresh yourself on where the planning's going and make sure that it's still exactly the way for the following year is what the board is still envisioning. It gives you an opportunity to look at any other new items that might come up. I feel it's always been important to have a strategic plan update or addition to an existing plan. That was the recommendation that we were making. In talking with Sales Hildebrand, he said he would, at an upcoming meeting, he would update exactly where we're at and what we're doing. But strategic planning has always been important, and it can't be just one year that carries on for the next 3. It's got to be refreshed and looked at every year because it involves financing and other changes in the direction the board wants to go. That was the reasoning behind that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just wondering because I know in 2019, after the 2018 election, there was a strategic planning session for the TNRD at Quiet Lodge in late January, February. And then there was another strategic planning session 1.5 years, nearly 2 years later in 2020. And then we did not have another one until 2023 with this current board. And I guess I'm still struggling with the idea. My model that I'm familiar with is that you do develop a strategic plan for the entire period of a councillor board, and that you have regular updates with staff as to how we are doing on accomplishing those goals, but you don't sit down with the intention of necessarily adding more to the strategic plan or changing it, because that seems like a lot of, I don't know, a lot of unnecessary work, because a strategic plan is supposed to guide a councillor board for the entire length of that term. That's my understanding of it. That's what the model I've always seen. So. Director Laird?
I'm quite familiar with that, but we all know we've been on this board now together for almost 1.5 years, and direction changes. There's items that come up that haven't been on our strategic plan. And we have to basically look at it and see if it's really something that we would like to add to our community, our yearly plan. And if you don't have a review as a board, I feel that we could, yeah, so that was the reasoning behind it, because things don't stay stagnant. They're always changing, and you can just see how our meetings go. There's always something new come up, and we give direction as to, you know, how we need to handle it. But I do feel it's important to have a yearly strategic plan, and it's not generating a brand new plan. It's reviewing where we're at and making sure we're going the direction we still want to go in from our previous plan. And I'm quite used to doing that as a.
Director Sarai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just need some clarification, and I did second it for discussion. So if CEO Hildebrand brings up a review of our strategic plan, would that satisfy your review? That's all it's going to be, is just a, okay.
Yes, I think Director Sarai just said that, I don't know if anybody even heard that he thought you were proposing that we sit down and have a full day, everyone there sitting around devising a new strategic plan.
Not, we won't, it's the wrong time of year to be doing it. If you're gonna do a strategic plan, it has to be done in December or January, because it reflects in your budgeting for the year. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? So when it says here rescheduling the strategic planning session, would it be, for the purposes of clarification, better to say to schedule a strategic plan review session? Just to avoid.
Yeah, that was the discussion we had, but I wanted, I would like to see the board have a strategic planning for in 2024, beginning of 2025, just to make sure we're still going in the direction that the whatever the current events are. And like I say, they change so quickly these days that sometimes priorities that you've established are not, they need to be refreshed and looked at, make sure we're accomplishing what we want to do.
So are you envisioning this being a full day session, similar to the one that we had at the beginning of the term early last year in March, I believe?
It would be, yes, I would like to see that January and December or January prior to the, you know, finalization budget. Cause there's always items that come up that we have to relook at and make sure there's financing available or for our project or direction we're going in.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Director Stamer.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Director Laird. I'm just wondering, is it necessary to have a full day on that? I mean, I guess we can discuss that as we get closer to the end of the year and decide exactly what we want to do in that review. I think we want to be able to have that flexibility. Maybe it's a full day that ends up having partly strategic review, and maybe it's like a cow meeting or something like that. It'd be basically halfway through the term. So that would be probably a really good opportunity for all of us to kind of have a look and see what's going on. Maybe CEO Hildebrand has a comment on that, but I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a really good idea.
Through the chair, I feel like a midterm review it would be fine, and to reschedule it this year or in the next few months wouldn't make any sense from my perspective. But if we were to do that early, like in January of 2025, maybe this could be rephrased to reflect the discussion.
I don't think we require a motion. We're just having discussion, and I think staff will come back with a recommendation.
So staff will be able to take this and look at rescheduling scheduling a strategic planning session for January of 2025.
So we may need, sorry, through the chair, we may need to defeat this then and then allow the staff to come back with this being scheduled in early 2025, if that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, so defeat this motion and come back with another one that specifies January of 2025?
It would actually be part of our annual review where the board decides what meetings we have through the year. We'd bring back in the fall and then schedule that for early 2025.
I can just withdraw the motion and
Withdraw the motion?
and then go with the new motion.
All right, can we do that, Corporate Officer Lois, or is it cleaner to defeat it?
With the seconders' consent, under this bylaw, a motion can be withdrawn.
Okay.
I consent.
All right, thank you. All right, Director Laird, do you have another motion that you'd like to propose?
That staff review and come forward with a planning session for January 2025.
Thank you. And Director Sarai, do you want to second that one?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on this? Aren't we agreeable? Pardon me? Director Lepso?
Apparently I wasn't agreeable. I heard from the CAO something about an annual review, so do we do this anyway? Is this something that's gonna be done anyway, or what?
Through the chair, my intention and what I've communicated in the past is that we would do a mid-year and end-of-year review on how our progress is on our current strategic plan. I think what Director Laird's suggesting is separate from that. I would do that every year through the entire term. But this is like a mid-year check-in is what I think I'm hearing.
Any further discussion? You're very agreeable, Director Lepso. Just clarifying. On the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Director Rain. Opposed, if any? Director Lepso, you're opposed? Thank you. Well, not thank you for being opposed, but you. All right, we move on to the Policy and Governance Committee meeting. We have 3 separate recommendations arising from that meeting.
Move the first that.
Second.
Director Bass, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any?
Move to.
Carried. Thank you, Director Stamer, seconded by Director Smith. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Move 3.
Director Bass, thank you.
Second.
Vice Chair Smith seconds that. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. For information, we have Wells Gray Country Services Committee. Anyone have any questions or comments on those minutes? Director Sao is eagerly awaiting your expressions of interest. Not this time, Director Sao, I'm sorry. All right, we do have a couple of pieces of information correspondence, starting with 14.1.1 from the city of Osoyoos, which is not in a desert, just in case anyone's not clear about that. And I would move to receive and file this, as we will all have an opportunity to vote on this ourselves in 2 weeks' time at Silga. Director Ranta, thank you so much. Any discussion? On the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. And item 14.1.2, I am going to throw this to Director Getz to see if he has any further clarification or if he would like to receive this for information.
We'll receive this for information only. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Director Sarai, thank you. Any questions or comments on this? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. We have information only, the Ombudsperson of BC's quarterly report. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that report? All right, new business members. We have 3 items of new business and pardon me? Oh, a couple of late hands on the Ombudsperson report, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, thank you, Chair. Is there any increase or decrease compared to last year? The number of complaints? Thank you.
Through the chair, I don't recall off the top of my head. I'd have to follow up, but I believe it was the same. Like, I don't believe there was any increase.
Sorry, were there any other hands on the Ombudsperson's report? No. All right, we move on to new business. And the first one is regarding Director Sao. And Director Sao, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a motion, sorry, I have 2 motions. One that the appointment of Director Yusuf Tsao be rescinded and that Kathy Armstrong be appointed as the Thompson-Nicola Regional District's Wells Gray Country Services Committee representative to the Tourism Wells Gray Association Board for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2025. And speaking to this, the whole reason for this motion is because previously, my Upper Clearwater representative on the Services Committee decided to move on, and we were looking for a new representative there, but he was our representative on the Tourism Wells Grey Board. So in the interim, I filled in that role myself, but now that we have a new member from the Upper Clearwater, Kathy Armstrong, who has a very strong background in the Wells Grey Park and Land Conservancy, I feel that she would be a very good fit, and she's agreed to put her name in the hat. So yeah, this is the reason why we're going through this. So that's the motion one.
All right, so motion one is that the appointment of Director Sao to Wells Grey Country Services Committee be rescinded and that Kathy Armstrong be appointed as the TNRD representative to Tourism Wells Grey Association Board. So,
I'll second that.
all right, so I've made that motion and Director Stamer has seconded it, and all those, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried.
Thank you. And second motion that Director Yusuf Sao be appointed as the Thompson-Nicola Regional District Wells Grey Country Services Committee alternative representative to the Tourism Wells Grey Association Board for a 2-year term ending on December 31st, 2025.
All right, Director Aranta has seconded that. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed, if any?
Aye.
And Director Rain is in favor. That is carried. Second item of new business is Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair. You may recall that I've been dealing with this TELUS connectivity issue or disconnectivity, and we've been able to address that. But I received some correspondence, and it says Rachel Greenspan, Executive Director for Network BC, will be in Kamloops on Monday, May 6th. It's understood that connectivity for Tronquil Valley remains a concern for area residents. If there is interest in meeting with Rachel to chat about these concerns or other connectivity interests in the region, do let me know and I can work to set up a time. So I've been in touch with CAO Hildebrand and Corbin. Corbin's been in touch with this Megan from Connected Communities. To put it in perspective for EA directors that were there the first day at the Richmond conference, there was a fellow named Rolly Russell, and he brought along Rachel and I think it was Megan, Connected Communities, and they were talking about the province supporting connectivity on Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast, that intake was closing, but they were going to open up a new one. And at that meeting, the discussion was about how this Tronquil Valley issue might fit into the new intake. And many of you in the EA areas have said to me, gee, I'd like an opportunity to piggyback on that effort. And we've got areas that don't have good connectivity or any connectivity. So when I read this, I thought that this was a really great opportunity. Scott and Corbin have said that they could set up a arrangement where Rachel comes here. I certainly will be here, and anybody that wanted to either come here or participate on a video to express their concerns or hear about connecting their communities, that would be an opportunity on May 6th. Have I pretty much summarized that? Oh, okay, so I guess it's a question. Number one, is anybody else interested? And if they are, how would we go about doing that? What if we could just frame that up?
Through you, Chair, it would just be a simple email to Corbin and myself that you'd want to participate. We'd send you the Zoom or the Teams link and you could certainly participate.
Get an indication just so that, because I have a kind of an obligation to get back to Megan the next little bit. So if we could just show of hands, people that might.
We've got Directors Houghton, South, Thorpe, Grenier, Morris, Vice Chair Smith, Onslow, and Smith and Middleton.
Okay,
So it's about what, a
Great.
dozen or so?
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do you have a time on May 6th?
That's what Corbin and Megan and myself is gonna try to organize.
Chair Rode, we might as well just send it to the board, and those that want to participate would probably make sense. They can join us.
Thank you. And the third item of new business, it is in your blue folder, and it is from the, I have to say this very carefully, I don't know why, Bonaparte Watershed Stewardship Society. They have advanced to round 2 of applications to the Real Estate Foundation of BC for a grant of up to $150,000. This is for remediation and mitigation work on the Bonaparte watershed in areas probably E and I and the village of Cache Creek. And they are looking for a letter of support. It is time sensitive, so I would move that we provide a letter of support to the Bonaparte Watershed Stewardship Society. Director Thorpe wants to second that. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, and on the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Is there any other new business of which I was unaware? Oh, my goodness, hands. All right, Director Houghton and then Director Onslow.
I know time's a ticking here. I was wondering if Jamie Vieira, if you could just give a quick update on the status of the process of the Monty Creek Fire Hall and the Pritchard Water and Wastewater Treatment Plant. I think those are 2 big projects we're working on this year.
Sure, through the chair. So the Monty Creek Fire Hall, the request for proposal was issued last month and it closed about 4 days ago. So we're in the process of evaluating those proposals. I think I could say we received 3 proposals that are being evaluated and looking forward to bringing a recommendation for contract award. Hopefully at the May meeting here, depending on the evaluation and negotiation process as part of the RFP process. The Pritchard water and wastewater treatment plants, as many reports have gone to this board. And the most recent one was an amendment to a contract for the membrane supply. The membrane supplier, where now that has been resolved, we are proceeding with a request for proposal for a design build of both of those systems combined into one. And we are expecting to release that in May and award the contract, this board considering award for a contract in the summer months, hopefully the July meeting.
Thank you.
Director Onslow?
Thank you for that. I am bringing up a request for one-time allowance for flow-through financing for the discretionary funds. So as we just heard, the policy changed on March 20th, and on March 27th, the community of Avola with discretionary funding hosted a awesome community dinner. So they fed 48 people. And historically, the Blue River Community Association provides flow-through financing to Avola because they don't have a nonprofit society that's active. So the process of having this event was already in place and the policy has changed. The paperwork for the flow-through financing has been submitted, but because the policy has changed and the dates were off by about 7 days, I'm asking for a one-time allowance to have the Blue River Community Association provide the flow-through financing for this event.
We have a seconder for that. Director Grenier, thank you. Any discussion? On the question, all those in favor? Opposed, Director Rain?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed, if any? That is carried. Is there any other new business? No, we move on to notice of motion. And I have a notice of motion. All right, so I'm going to read it out and then it will come back to us at our next meeting. Regarding disposal of yard waste during community cleanup events. Whereas the Thompson-Nicola Regional District and its member municipalities are committed to the principles of Fire Smart and assisting our residents to take steps to safeguard their properties by clearing and trimming vegetation in order to mitigate fire risk. And whereas municipal regional district waste collection agencies conduct or have the ability to conduct annual spring and or fall community yard waste cleanups to assist residents in safely disposing of large quantities of yard waste that might otherwise be improperly disposed of and or pose a fire risk. And whereas individual residents are not charged for yard waste disposal, but municipal regional district waste collection agencies are charged for disposing of these materials, which is in addition to labor and equipment costs. Therefore, be it resolved that the Thompson-Nicola Regional District work with each municipal or regional district waste collection agency that would like to offer its residents a yard waste cleanup to waive the disposal fees for such an event once in each calendar year, and work with the agencies to ensure that all affected eco depots and transfer stations know when these events are taking place so that they can be staffed appropriately and that the material can be accepted, stored, disposed of properly. Are there any other notices of motion? All right, we move on to question period. And there's no questions from the public. That's awesome. Thank you very much. No, seriously. I'm definitely not looking at no, sorry. Not looking in that direction. Are there any questions from the public? Yes, sir.
It's not a question. I just wanted to thank you guys for your patience with me today. Obviously, I'm not overly familiar with how everything works. I'm very thankful for this man here. He is very knowledgeable in knowing the process of things, so he's doing a great job. So thanks to him and thanks to all of you today for the support. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for understanding. And waiting, yes. Are there any? Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other questions? All right. Oh. There goes all the goodwill you just built up for. Thank you. All right, we have need of a closed meeting to take place following this meeting in accordance with Community Charter, sections 90.1C, labor relations or other employee relations, and E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the council considers that, or the board considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district or municipality. So I would like to move that. Second, Director O'Reilly, thank you very much. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. We will reconvene in about 5 minutes.